All right, well, we're going to hopefully learn some things that we don't already know about the oldest members in the club. We have,
Well, turn that mic up a little bit.
down,
Make sure you talk into it. Yeah.
okay, how's that? Can you hear me way back there? All right. In case you didn't hear it, we're gonna find out some things about the oldest members of the club that hopefully you didn't already know. Okay, we have member number 7, Jerry Mall. We have member number 2, Bud Rositsky. And we have member number 1, Nick Graber, joining from Zoom. There he is up there. Okay, so the way we'll do this is they've all received some questions, typical questions that you would expect of a coin collector. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with number 7, Jerry, and I'm going to, so you know what he's talking about and what he's responding to. I'm going to ask the questions, each question one at a time. Jerry wants to do this from his seat.
No, I think that,
Oh, you can't?
I feel we got to sit down.
Okay. So that,
He can sit down right up there,
okay, all right.
and we can move that microphone. So we can-
Okay. All right, we'll do it that way, Jerry. And then here's
I
some,
ask a question.
uh-oh.
Say, yeah,
This
Yes,
is Nick Graver speaking.
yes,
Something has just cut the top half of my picture off, and it says this meeting is being recorded. And that has taken the place of the top half of my window. I'm not a computer expert.
just tell them to click on it, it should go.
Oh, Wow.
click on it, Nick, it should go away. Okay,
Click the OK.
Excuse my interruption.
It's all right.
click OK. All right. So here's something I wanted to say, and you make sure you acknowledge you've heard this, Nick. I realize with 6 or 7 questions, if any one of you went on for 5 minutes or so, we could be here an hour and a half. So as interesting as your answers are going to be, keep in mind that we don't want it to get too extended, okay? All right, got that? So Jerry, would you like to start out by coming up and we'll begin with your interview?
Yeah.
And we're gonna have to share the mic too. Okay,
Well, I can just start.
all right,
let me just. I didn't answer that.
but what I want to do, Jerry, is I want everyone to know what you're talking about, what
Oh,
you're
okay,
responding
okay.
to. So I want to ask the question and then everybody will hear your answer, okay?
Okay,
All right. What year did you begin coin collecting?
1957.
That's pretty precise. What got you interested in coin collecting?
I'm gonna have to. Okay, in 1957. My grandfather died. He died in 56, actually. And we were cleaning out his house. My dad said, anything that you find in the house, you can keep. Now, my grandfather was one of those people that saved everything and had heaps of stuff just piled up like in television programs. I mean, you could hardly get from one room to the next unless you found a pad. Well, going along, every once in a while, I'd find a little jar and it had some dimes or quarters or something in it, which was kind of neat. Then I got up to the bedroom. Some of you will remember, I looked in the sock drawer. There was $1,000. So
Cash or points? Points.
gold certificates. So I said, well, that's pretty good. My dad said, well, that's fine, you know, it's yours. I said it was. I was hauling, I think 6 or 7 trailer loads of stuff to the dump. But then the piece of resistance, we went down to the basement, and in the basement there was a tin box. Felt like that, and like that, and like that. When I opened it, it was filled with silver coins. These silver coins were all laid down. Probably in 1924 is the way I figured it out. So there were 1924 and 23, 22, 21, were all uncirculated. And then there was a little bit of wear on the earlier ones. I say, hey, that's pretty good. Even had 2 1916 quarters there. And so what I did with that was I put together a set of standing Liberty quarters. And then I put together another set of standing Liberty quarters. And I put together a set of barber quarters, and put together another set of barber quarters. Oh, it's getting kind of tiring. I put together a standing or a walking Liberty set. It was all from this one box, which was the coolest thing. I could hardly carry it. Like I say, it was like this and like this. So that was the beginning of my coin collecting. Now, actually, before that, so I knew enough to save these things. Before that, I had gone through Popular Mechanics magazine, and then there was an ad from Max Mel, B. Max Mel. B. Max Mel advertised that he was the largest dealer in the country, coin dealer in the country. He probably was. In 1912, he came to Rochester, and in 1912, he became a member of the RNA. He paid his dues up until 1957 when he died. So he was one of our longer members, B. Max Mel. But anyway, I saw his ad and it said, send in $1 and you can have, I'm gonna hold that white book up there. You can get the rare coin encyclopedia. So I did. That was his buying list. Then I sent in another dime and I got the one that's beat up there, the green one. Yep. I got that. That's his selling price. It was pretty darn neat. Now in Syracuse at the time where I lived, there were 5 coin stores in downtown. So you had your choice of coin stores. My dad got kind of interested in coins when I was doing it. He went out and bought a coin store. He didn't run it, but he bought it. And we had a person that was running it for us. Across the street from my school, I went to a private school in Syracuse. Across the street was Ye Old Curiosity Shop. And I went over there one day and I said, do you have any commemorative coins? He said, well, I have some Booker T. Washington. And so I said, yeah, let me see one. He pulled out a box with 1,100 of them in there. You remember that the Mint didn't sell them all and they were dumping them. And I said, I'm also starting to collect American colonial coins. And so he pulled out a box and there was 30 Virginia halfpennies, brilliant uncirculated, not red, not brown uncirculated, but brilliant uncirculated. And guess how much I had to pay for one? This was 1956. No, this was 58. $15. And I thought, gee, that was kind of cheap. But I looked at the red book for that year, and the red book says I think $16.50. So I got a pretty good deal. But anyway, that was where I got started.
All right.
Yeah.
You've answered 5 of my questions right off the bat. And I appreciate it. It's really good. Can I ask you a question about 1960? Can I ask you a question about 1965?
Sure.
Okay. That's when copper nickel coinage started. And silver dimes, quarters, and $half began to disappear. I want to ask all 3 of you, what effect did that have on your coin collecting?
I think I had all the silver coins that I could use. So it really didn't have an effect, except I started a new collection of Indian head pennies. But I wanted proofs. So I started a collection of proof Indian head pennies, which was kind of neat too.
Very impressive. I have one last question for you. Don't go anywhere. So a lot of changes in US coinage, numismatics overall. How would you say you've maintained your interest in collecting and in your enjoyment of collecting?
Okay, two things that are, well, maybe one. I think one of the best things are coin clubs. I mean, our coin club is still here. And at that time, in 1965, there was a coin club in Canandaigua, there was a coin club in Utica, Syracuse, in Fulton, of course in Buffalo. One at Kodak, one in Chi-Line. So I belong to most of them. Would get around and meet the people and have some fun. That was what kept the interest up. It wasn't so much the coins, it was more the people.
Thank you, Jerry. Thanks a lot. So we'll give Bud Brzezinski a chance. And he has the same questions pretty much. We'll see what he has to say about that. Oh, and by the way, Jerry, I forgot to ask you, you began collecting when you were a teenager, didn't you? That discovery of the $1,000 in gold certificates, you were a young teenager at the time, right? Okay. Welcome, Bud.
Good evening. I'll share the mic with you.
Okay. What year did you begin coin collecting?
1963.
That's a good year. What would you say got you interested in collecting?
A classmate of mine in college who had become the head of WXXI said to me, you know, you're working in a field where you get a lot of coinage and stuff. You got to become a collector. I said, well, I'll give it a shot.
Oh, okay. So it was a radio connection.
No, actually, just happened to be a friend.
Oh,
But I worked for a company at the time. I was in the food service business and they had a vending machine division. And in those days, you got paid with a paycheck. So you had to go to the bank to get it cash. And I would ask for 10 silver dollars. And then I would put them in, you know, an upgrade. And then the ones I didn't want to keep, and because you could get all you wanted, I would use as tips in restaurants, which people, the servers really got to know me because I was the only one that was giving them silver dollars.
okay. So, so what types of coins or series did you like to, or did you start out collecting back in '63?
Well, basically what happened was we had a money counting room for the vending division. And I made a deal with a guy who was in charge of that I could come in on Saturdays and go through all the coins. So it was nothing for me to put together a Franklin 50-cent piece, a complete set, you know, with all of the cash, all the stuff that was coming in. Then I educated the guy, which was probably a mistake because I told him, separate all the Buffalo nickels. So, you know, put those aside, I'll buy those. And he says, is there anything special you want? And I said, there's a thing called a three-legged buffalo. And if you ever find one, I'll give you a premium. So he did find one, only one. And I had to pay a lot more than a nickel for that one.
All right, so I think you've kind of gotten into some questions I was gonna ask. I was gonna ask what types of coins were circulating in everyday change and at banks? And you said you could get silver dollars at banks. That's something I think would be of interest to everybody. How long did that continue that you could go to the bank and get silver dollars?
Well, basically, once people started to be paying. Businesses were depositing checks electronically or directly to the bank, people weren't getting checks, they had to go to the bank to cash, so the bank, as you've seen, trying to find a cashier in a bank is a challenge. You go to a Bank of America, they hide the teller behind the thing there. But in those days, all the teller cages were full. And there was plenty of coins. And to get people, the average person didn't know about putting aside the silver coins. One of the questions you're gonna, and it's a quick answer, was, what's the best coin I ever got out of a bank? And it was a 1928p dollar. And that made my day, That coin was worth $100, way back.
It cost you $1.
$1. But I couldn't believe, when I went through it, I can't believe it. That I got that.
Okay. Would you like to respond to this question about when clad coinage started in '65? How did that affect your collecting?
Anything silver, I took. Any place I could get it. Again, in the money counting machine, vending business, people just didn't care, And in those days, a cup of coffee was 10 cents, so a heck of a lot of dimes coming through.
Okay. All right. My last question for you. How have you maintained your interest in collecting and your enjoyment of collecting?
Well, what happened in later years is that the Surrogate Court, the head lawyer there, asked me if I would do evaluations for estates. So they would give my name to the attorneys in the estates, and then I would go do the evaluation. And of course, I couldn't buy the collection, but what they wanted the money, they wanted the cash. So they take somebody in the office and say, we're selling it to you, but then Bud's gonna pay you the money. And he's gonna take the coins. So I did that. And the only quick story I'll tell is that I got an estate and we went to the house. And this guy had the old coffee cans, the 2-pound coffee cans, filled with coins. And, and I said to the attorney, I don't understand this, there's gotta be thousands of dollars here. And the guy volunteer in the church. And the collection trays in those days, if you remember, you threw your coins in. And this guy, at the end of the day, he would count out the coins and then he'd give the church bills, and he'd take all the coins home. So that took us over 3 months to do valuation. And I was really fortunate because I got somebody else. I got a coin dealer involved, and he helped me with it because he had all of it.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you, Bud.
kept it under the tongue.
All right. So when we've heard from all three of these collectors, then if you want to keep going, you're free to ask them a question. Hopefully you've had a question or two come up. But after we hear from Nick Graver, collector number one, no, actually RNA member number one. Nick, can you, oh, wait a minute, I gotta switch mics. Right? Can you hear me, Nick?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you the same questions I've asked your friends. Okay. About what year did you begin coin collecting?
Well, the family story that I began collecting before I was born. My father had a fruit jar with a slot in the lid, and he put Indian head cents in the fruit jar long before I came along. But I inherited the jar and later organized it. And about 1950, I began carrying newspapers, and a lot of coins went through my hands. And you might smile when you hear that I earned 1.25 cents, 1.25 cents for each paper I carried.
Nick, does that mean you collected some half cents back then?
My hearing is profoundly impaired, and this audio system is pretty dinky. So if you're talking a little slowly, I hear better. It doesn't need to be loud. Loudness does not equal clarity.
Okay.
So that's question number one.
Yeah. So that's what got you interested in coin collecting was the jar that you inherited?
Well, I can't say that changed my life, but it certainly was a pretty interesting family treasure. So I think that's the answer. There they
Okay.
were.
Okay, Nick. What types of coins did you like to collect? Did you have any series that you specialized in?
I got the Whitman folders, and I collected everything that was circulating. Well, not everything, but certainly cents, nickels, dimes, and quarters. I never accumulated half dollars till the Franklins came along, and then I did collect half dollars. The After I got most of the common coins that were in circulation, I started buying a few, but I really got serious when I collected U.S. type coins, coins of the Papal States in Italy, and then I'm a photographer. I collected things that were photographic, numismatic, tokens, advertising notes, all kinds of things that were money-like that had a connection with photography. That's that one.
Nick, that wasn't real clear, but I would like to ask you a question. Did you get silver dollars at the banks?
Silver dollars were, of course, available at face value. So if you needed a silver dollar, you could go ask for it. I wasn't collecting dollars as a set or anything. So, and that was big money in those days. So I didn't, I didn't need dollars and they didn't figure in my daily life.
Okay, okay. Nick, I'm going to move down to my sixth question. When the clad coinage started in 1965 and silver dimes and quarters disappeared from circulation, how did that affect your collecting?
I have to briefly answer the previous question that you're skipping. I never found a really valuable coin in circulation worth any kind of big money. When the metal changed, it had no impact on me at all because I was collecting type coins, scarce antique coins. So what was circulating had nothing to do with me at all.
Okay. Now, Nick, we're having a little trouble hearing you. So look down to the last question and maybe get a little closer to your mic. How have you kept your interest in collecting, and how have you kept collecting enjoyable?
Well, I have notes for this question. I am very old-fashioned, and for example, those Indian head coins are cents, not pennies. We fought the Revolutionary War to get away from England and their pennies. So I believe a commemorative coin should be available in circulation and not strictly sold as a premium item. I don't like non-collectible legal tender coins that they're bullion pieces with a denomination on them. They're really metals. They're not really pure numismatic. I can't imagine why FDR is still on the dime after all these decades, and I'm looking forward to changes in the coinage. My favorite thing in numismatics these days is the Asylum weekly chat group that gets published by Wayne Homran in Northern Virginia. And it's every Sunday night it comes, and it's the most exciting and interesting thing in numismatics. And if any of you don't get it, just Google E-SYLUM, Asylum, and you'll have the experience of a lifetime in reading that every week. In fact, it may take a couple evenings to read it all.
I see. Well, Nick,
go ahead.
okay. You know what I think I'm going to do? I think what we'd like to do, since we've heard from all three of you now, if any of the members here has come up with a question or comment that they would like to pose to either one of you, we'd like to give them the opportunity to do that. Okay?
Super.
Maybe the first question for Nick, but just, what did he do with those first albums, the Whitman folders and stuff that he put together? Where are they today?
Your old Whitman folders and albums, do you still have those?
I sold my sets at last year's coin show and the folders went with them. And I don't think I was paid any extra premium for the folders. Uh, I was pretty good at collecting, and I know a fair amount about history, but I was never good at selling. So I probably didn't do very well.
I'm sorry to hear that. Does anyone else have a question for Bud?
Can I make a
Jerry?
comment? Is it possible to make a comment?
Sure, sure. Where's this
Yeah,
coming?
I just wanted to say that the three gentlemen, their talks were incredible, and it brings back so many wonderful memories. It was really refreshing to see that. And but I did want to mention, when I was in 10th grade, I remember riding my bike up to the bank to get some rolls, which I did frequently. And when I walked in, that one of the tellers goes, "Oh, Chucky." Well, of course, I was Chucky back then. I graduated to Chuck as I got older. But, "Oh, Chucky, look, I've got all these silver dollars." She must have had 20, 25 of them. I had a $10 bill. That was going to buy a lot of rolls of pennies and maybe a roll of nickels. But so I bought 10 of the nicest looking silver dollars that were in there. Nothing rare, but they were just beautiful. But and that had to be in 1963 when I was in 10th grade. But I applaud the three gentlemen. Thank you for such interesting talks.
Well, we thank them all. Any other questions? Jerry?
Gary Moss. Can I ask you, the original coin that you discovered, that your grandfather, you still have some of those, or all of them?
No, most of them I sold off. I want to repeat that.
Oh, okay,
Question for Jerry.
the question was, does Jerry Mall still have some of those coins that were in the, where were they, in the dresser drawer again? Or the certificates?
Yes, Chip had some.
They ended up with Chip. Okay. Let me, how about this? Jerry, do you have any of the very first coins that you collected and put away in an album or however you stored them? Do you still have some of those very first coins that are special to you?
The first coin that I bought was an 1858 Fine Eagle cent.
Okay.
I bought it from, I don't know what it is. From B-Max Mill.
Wow.
And then the second group I bought, I kept accurate records. The second group I bought was maybe 1957 fruit set from the mint. $2.10.
Okay.
I think we'd be happy with that price.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I kind of lost track of time, but do you have, be okay to ask another question? Nick Murray? Bud's member number 2.
Okay, Nick's got a question for you.
Okay, Nick.
Hello. Hello.
Nick,
Hello.
I have another comment to make.
Go ahead.
I told you I collected US type coins and
Yeah.
papal states. Both of those collections were auctioned, and the proceeds took us to Europe, the whole family, on the first occasion. And then after the second collection, part of the family and our grandchildren. So it was not a total bust in the collecting. It certainly did raise significant money, and we put it to a good use traveling with the family. We made 21 trips overseas and went to 34 different countries. So thanks for listening.
Thank you, Nick, and it's good to hear that you put your collection to good use. Jerry?
Just thinking, Jerry asked me, did I have some of these coins? I had some large sets which are beautiful. 1820, that was when you could get an uncirculated 1825 cent. Paid for my wedding. So I guess I got a good deal there.
For a cheap wedding. But a question for Bud, quick, but that 1928 P dollar, you still have that one by any chance?
Which you've heard from a couple mature people. I sold all my collection.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and all of those silver coins and the Wheaties and all that, I took out the Ridge Road, you know, and basically melt value. And, you know, it was very disappointing to me that in the last couple of years, the melt value has been greater than the numismatic value. And I think that's probably the most upsetting thing to everybody in this room, because we appreciate the beauty of the coin itself and what goes into making it, and have it get counted down with, it's sad. That's all I can say.
Agree. Well, I think, unless there's any other questions, I think that we can say we're, oh, Nick.
I have one more thought. When the typeset was auctioned, I saved one coin. And
Good.
it's the $10 gold eagle that my wife gave me as a wedding present. And it's in one of these slab gizmos. It's the only slab I own. And strangely, it says the date, the denomination, and the grade, but it doesn't say USA. It's an American coin, but you have to know that. It doesn't say it on the slab. Once again, thanks for listening.
You're welcome, Nick. And being an old-fashioned collector, I'm guessing that you're not a big fan of slab coins?
It's part of the hobby, and people have every right to collect what they want and store it however they wish. So I'm not anti-slab. I just don't need any but this one, because it's the only U.S. significant coin that we have. I'm hoping somebody in the family will appreciate it as it gets handed down.
Chip, go ahead.
Nick, what year is the
Yeah, what year,
$10 gold piece?
what year, Nick, is that $10 gold piece?
The coin is 1926. And it's
26.
graded M63.
Wow,
And
okay.
I think my girlfriend, then fiance, did pretty well buying it from a man that worked in her office who was a collector, and he brought her a perfect eagle, and she bought it as my wedding present.
And that wasn't the year you got married, though.
Well, you make a good point, Nick, that, you know, you don't just look at coin collecting from a dollar and cent standpoint entirely, unless you're a dealer maybe, but certain coins have special value. And I think everybody would agree that, I think what keeps it interesting for me is you associate, historical things, either personal or national with those dates. And in my case, I associate geography with coinage because of all the different mints we have. And that's something that I think keeps it interesting for me, and probably you do too.
One more point,
One more
your,
coin.
your question number 7. The reason I really am still a numismatist, the history is so wonderful. The history is what keeps me going. The wonderful people that I've met is super important. And the travel that was involved, we bought coins in Europe. I got into CBs and Sphinx. It it really helped educate me in many special ways. Thank you.
You're welcome. I think maybe time to turn it over to our president.